Hi, I'm Sarah.
Hi, I'm Rachel.
And this is the Tabernacle podcast with Danvers Church of the Nazarene.
Keep tuning in as we make episodes every other month.
Hi, and welcome back to the Tabernacle podcast. We have a guest speaker here, Josh. Maybe, Josh, you can tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, my name's Joshua, and I've been at the DCN for just about my whole life, and it's a pleasure to be here. So, thank you again.
And Josh recently returned from Burkina Faso, where he did some missions work for DCN. So let's get started and talk about that.
Alrighty, let's do it.
So Josh, what was your favorite part of Burkina Faso?
My favorite part, I would say really just interacting with the people, even though at least to whatever degree we could. I mean, yeah, I don't speak French, but I mean with Pastor Pao being there, it was just good, just seeing and experiencing a different culture in general, just seeing how people live, just how they just go about doing stuff in general. Yeah. So.
Speaking of the team who you were with, can you tell us more about Pastor Pao and the rest of the team?
Yeah, yes. If I'm getting my information correctly, someone can correct me later. But I mean, with Pastor Pao, he is a pastor, and then he's also a teacher of I think maybe one or two, maybe even three schools in his area, and within his town, his village. And he does phenomenal work, and so from what I've seen, he's been a huge inspiration to many students of all ages, just with whatever he's teaching and just whatever he's able to preach as well too. So,
okay. Can you tell me a little bit about the people that you met there who were maybe not part of the team, but maybe some West Africans who you met, or things that you observed from them?
Yeah, I can't say that I met people as friends, but when we were, I think it was maybe Monday, the Monday that we were getting ready to leave, or one of our last few days, in the morning, we were able to meet up with the local district pastors. I think there was maybe 5 or 6, maybe 7 people there, and then we were able to go to the plot where the Pao's church is being built, and then they all bless the land, and they have it's almost like a tradition in a sense, where kind of like how in construction over here we break ground. It's a big ceremony and such, but each of the local pastors, they each grabbed they all dug a small trench, like a little corner. They each got a cinder block, got a piece of cement, and they each put a brick on, and that's like, look, we're breaking the ground, construction's going to be here, this is going to be a holy place. And I thought that was really just, to observe that. I mean, even me, Elisha, and Pastor Q, I mean, we didn't have any say in it, but we were just off to the side being respectful. But to experience that, it was different, just to kind of again, how we break ground for buildings. It's a big ceremony and whatnot, but they just do it. It's pretty straightforward. It's just how they did that, at least for the church. I can't say that they did it for every building, but for this building that's being built in particular, it kind of stuck with me. It was different. So.
Unique, right?
Yeah, just I wasn't expecting. I'm like, okay, they're digging a hole. Okay, that guy's grabbing a cinder block. Some guy's mixing the mud, cement, and it's just kind of slapped on there. Then another guy does it, and they're all getting their hands dirty. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. I mean, they got their hands dirty. They put that brick on the ground. They stacked up the cinder blocks and whatnot. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty deep. So I like that. That's really neat. So
it's kind of surprising too. It sounds like.
Yeah, and again, I wasn't expecting it. I know that we were going to be, they were going to be blessing the property and whatnot, but I didn't expect them to each get a cinder block. Someone's mixing a small thing of cement and whatever. And I'm like, all right, let's just see where this is going. Let's This is interesting to me. So
I love when people bless property or things, or they do prayer walks around it. I love that. I'm like, ooh, free prayer, free good energy. Like, yes,
exactly. And again, even I mean, all the pastors, you know, they had their prayers and whatnot. I couldn't understand a word they were saying, but just I knew that it was good. I knew that it was just good. Yeah, just goodness was coming out from that. So.
What surprised you about the culture? Was there anything, whether it's West Africa as a whole or just Burkina Faso, anything like that?
Well, I mean, I guess more for a culture shock. I mean, unfortunately, I did see a lot of poverty, and it's like, you know, I mean, every nation, every country has their own kind of poverty, but again, I've never traveled anywhere other than Canada, so that's pretty much as far as I ever went. But to just go over there and see that it was a bit shocking at first. Though when I landed there, it was nighttime, so you know, driving through the streets trying to get back to where we were, I could tell that, you know, obviously it was a very different place. It was, you know, almost midnight, 1 in the morning, and you know, I could just see some like buildings barely, but that next day when we, you know, we got a chance to drive around the local cities and whatnot, only then, you know, with the daylight, I'm like, oh, wow, there's just stuff, unfortunately, but besides the poverty, of course, I don't want to focus on that, but it was also just different, like driving. That was unique. I never experienced driving. You know, being in a car, just basically the lines are just a guideline. But and Pastor Powell, no, he did a wonderful job at maneuvering through all the places we had to go, and of course God was behind the wheel. Behind that, overall he was, you know, God had the wheel there. So, but yeah, no, just these little things that I'm not used to. Again, I never experienced just people just driving all around and just people just walking across the streets just like nothing. I mean. Though kind of backtracking, when we landed, when we got picked up at the airport, we went to a local restaurant just right in the capital. What was it? I forget the name. I think it was called La Vida, but it was really good. But crossing the street, I was just about to casually cross the street, but then I'm like, no, this is car. No one stops. There's no. There are some street lights, but again, those are in some cases just a guideline. I mean, people do stop, but it's just, you know, you have to look all sorts of different ways. It's just a little bit chaotic. But crossing the street in a different country, that was different too. So.
I had that when I was in England too, years ago. You know, they drive on the opposite side of the road, but after you've been there a couple weeks, you just forget, and that's when you have to watch out for car accidents. So I'm glad that you were safe.
Yeah, well, Pastor and Pals, so they said something, but I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm not back at home. I've you know, it's a nighttime. I obviously don't want to stay close to everyone, and just the entire environment was. Again, it was a little bit overwhelming, jet lagged, kind of tired, but it was kind of like, okay, where am I? It's really hot out. I'm just like...
But that's one of the things, that's a question I've been wanting to ask you, because when you go to another country or when you go to a new principality, it's a different culture of some sort, it does change your worldview. Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
Is there something that has made it hard to be back in the U.S., or just you look at things differently now because of that? Any shift?
I have a little bit more of a respect of just, I mean, I'm trying to, how can I word this? But there's several things really. Just, you know, I guess my living situation. You know, I don't live in the best apartment. I'm not, you know, nothing fancy, but it's not great either. But you know what? I'm thankful for that. I mean, not every some days I get hot water, sometimes I don't. But at least I get hot water. I have electricity. I have a roof over my head. There's pavement on the ground, even though it's kind of unleveled. There's still pavement on the ground. I don't have to worry about it going off, my power going off, or if it does go out, I know it's gonna come back. So
I also off script for a second here. Do you miss the little lizards in the bathroom? Yeah, they're so cute.
Yeah, no, yeah. There's just these little, just the. I mean, it's a dry area, so I didn't see like any crazy wildlife. But yeah, there's these small lizards and
were they geckos or just similar to geckos?
Some were geckos, some were I don't even know what they were. So some were bigger, some were smaller. They're just running around. I miss them a little bit. It's different, but I mean, but at the same time, I'm also kind of glad that I don't have things just crawling on the wall that aren't bugs. They're just like things, just but
things that would eat you if they were bigger
or bite me or something. I don't know, right. But yeah, so I miss them and I don't.
Yeah,
then I have to look up.
I saw those and they reminded me of bigger versions of what we had in the South, in the U.S., in Georgia. They're tiny lizards, and my sister used to grab the lizards and stick them on her earlobes. And she would, because she was only like 6, she wasn't allowed to have earrings, and so she would walk around with the lizards, and the lizards would just hang on for several minutes at a time, and she'd walk around, and this little girl with missing her 2 front teeth, and she'd say, I have lizards for my earrings, lizards, and it was so cute. So when I saw your lizards, I was like, maybe Josh will get an earring or 2.
Maybe. I don't know.
Next mission trip.
Maybe. I'm not sure if they're getting any piercings over there, but.
What do you want to remember about this experience going forward? Something that you're like, I really never want to forget this. There's something that I really cherish from this. I want to take this with me, hold it special in my heart.
I would say the impact, maybe of course not just me, but just as a team, as a group, or even as even their local churches as well, too. Just as a congregation over there, and just as our team, really the impact that we were able to make on the locals, and the kids, just the families. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a pastor. I don't have that gift of evangelism. So honestly, I'm quite shy. But even just being there, being there, just being the guy that takes pictures, just being a part of that team, it was good. And I'm hoping that God be willing, if I'm able to go back next time, maybe I might have a little bit more to say, because I know that when I was over there, they did have me speak. I did have a small brief testimony. For me, it was that was hard, but so not to kind of ramble on, but I'm glad that I was able to make an impression in some way, and again, not just myself, but just with Pastor Q, and even Pastor Powell. He was a huge help for especially translating and back and forth and whatnot, but overall. Just making sure, just having that impact on the people.
What do you think your impact was? We're going to get back to your testimony, because you can't do a Christian podcast and not tell us what your testimony. So I am going to ask you.
That's true.
But what do you think? What would you say? And you don't have to give specifics if it's sensitive information, because I know it can be an unreached people group, and I know it's there's unrest going on. Yeah. But what do you think your impact was in a general sense? In Burkina Faso,
I would think, again, I guess I can't really say, but I would think that the fact that people do care, because again, not just for me and Pastor Elisha, but Pastor Q, he came from South Korea. That's like 30 hours of travel and time to and from. We only had maybe like 18, but just overall, the fact that just three people came together, and we showed up, and we did what we did. To me, at least that sends a signal, like, or that kind of shows a sign, like, hey, people other than people outside from the outside world, west or far east, wherever, they came here. They could have been anywhere else, but they came here to put the time in, put the money in, just that time and effort to preach and making that kind of an impact. So,
Well, before I ask you your testimony and what you said to them, how do you want to really think about this experience going forward? Was this a missions trip? Was this personal growth opportunity? Both? Is it something more? How do you want to think about this?
I would say definitely both, in a sense. For myself, it's it's good for me. Good for me in a sense. It builds character, and my life isn't all that thrilling and exciting, but it's like, when I was, asked to go, it's like, absolutely, I'll definitely try to make some time to go about doing that. And I'm like, of course, I mean, how many times do you get approached to, hey, do you want to go here? I'm like, absolutely. So, I'm glad that I was able to go and, make an effort, make an impact on these people. And it was nice.
Do you feel like God changed your view of the world, or is he still changing it? How did that happen? I imagine there must be some change because you come back a little different.
Yeah, and again, I guess more so, what kind of changed me is the sense of perspective, because I was the minority over there, and just having that even better and more of a better understanding of like, okay, people come here in the U.S. as an immigrant. I mean, their struggles and whatnot and what they have to go through. And even though I was just visiting over there, it's like, oh man, being an immigrant or a minority in that sense, it's different. So it's like, I mean, I can't read the language, I can't speak, I can't drive, and it's just like, I guess someone coming to the U.S. brand new, fresh off the boat, whatever. It's like, right. If they can't speak the language or, do any of these things, I'm like, that, I'm kind of in that situation, or at least just have an idea of that. So I'm like, that's, so I'm like, okay, now I kind of have an idea of, what some of these people might be going through in that sense.
Right.
So I better respect and understanding of that. So I was like, okay, my mind's kind of like, okay, I get that. So, I mean, of course, I treat people well, anyways. But not to, but it's just, it's like I just have a better understanding and
empathy for them.
Yeah, more empathy and an even better understanding and respect for people that can overcome that and be able to learn the language and do all this stuff and their background and
right.
So.
Did God teach you anything about himself while you were there? Is there something about him that you're like, I feel like I'm closer to God, or I feel like I know how he's working more? Anything of that nature?
More so just how he's working, because again, even all the years when Pastor Elisha first came here, sure he'd be going over. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Giving money to his friend here and there. But to actually see the fruit of our labor, or the work, basically where our money is going, where the church money is going, where these these mission funds are going, and then seeing it applied, that's where I'm like, okay, now I see how things are working, and so that kind of changed me, or left an impression on my heart in that sense. So
it's nice to. I love the relationship with God because you love him and you also have to let him love you.
Yeah.
And I like seeing that in the macro and the micro where like you love on the country where you're donating money and you also let them love you back and use that and have a connection, and you got to see that firsthand, which is really impressive. And I love that you got to share your testimony there. Would you mind just telling us a summary of what you said to them? I imagine you had to make everything very simplified so it could be translated, but maybe you could give us just an overview of that.
Yeah, well, so basically while in transit, from Boston to France, we get to France. We're going about, just going through all our security checks and just, making sure that we're all checked in and whatnot. But halfway through, my bag broke, and or one of the zippers broke. Stuff all over the place. It was just, I mean, it wasn't like terrible, but I'm like, So that was just a bit frustrating. So just kind of cram everything in there, and I'm like holding the bag around people. I feel like people are looking at me. I don't know, but yeah. So that was kind of frustrating. So I had to just put everything to this weird duffel bag, and it was just annoying. But yeah. So overall, after that, eventually we get to Africa, and we just try to make it a point. Like, okay, well, Pao was saying that. Okay, well, eventually we're gonna get tailored for these lovely suits. But it's like, okay, well, we've got some spare time. Let's go there like a day or two early. So we did that. But while we were waiting for my bag to be fixed, these two men approach, Muhammad and Leonard, I believe. And so they're just kind of interesting. Well, they're just kind of interested why we were just standing here. I mean, two Asians and a white guy, just like, oh, that's kind of interesting. What's this all about?
Hanging out in West Africa.
Yeah.
Just another day.
So what's this all about? So so I guess through POW they're just kind of talking. Through POW they're talking to us, and so then just one thing led to another, and Pastor Elisha was able to reach out to these two guys, and I thought it was good. But then halfway through, while they're talking, of course I wanted to chime in and just say something, but I'm like, I'm gonna let this play out. But I mean, I was gonna add in, my bag broke, which led me here right now in this very spot. And these two guys are asking, I mean, they were Muslim, so they were just, kind of giving their point of view on certain things. But it was one of those things where it's like my bag breaking.
Was a divine appointment.
Yeah. It was a divine appointment. I mean, again, we could have been anywhere else in the world, but we were here right now with those two guys. So
we talk about Jesus leaving the 99 to save the one, and I think it would be, really precious in some ways to think of what if you went to Burkina Faso just for these two guys.
Right,
I could see God doing that. Although I think you also went for other reasons. You learned so much, but even if nothing else, it would be precious to see two souls brought to the Lord.
Oh yeah, and absolutely. Though, our main thing that was in the city city village that we were staying at. Well, they have what they call a crusade, and I'm not sure if it's like a yearly thing or if it's only when Pastor Elisha decides to show up. But and they get all the local churches and some of the local bands and all the families, kids. Just everyone's there. Everyone shows up. They got this stage going on, and
like a revival.
Yeah, like a revival. And but when we were approaching them, we were driving through, and we happened to go by one of Pastor Powell's campuses. But again, we saw a flyer for the crusade with Pastor Elisha on there. It showed his face and whatnot. I'm like, oh, that's really strange. I mean, I couldn't read it because it was all in French. But but I'm like, oh, that's funny. So I'm sure. I'm pretty sure.
Did you get a photo of it?
Pastor has a photo somewhere. I'm not sure if he's able to. It's on a thumb drive somewhere. He might have it. He might not have saved it. I hope he did save it. But But it was cool. So I'm like, okay, cool. So it's just But the Crusades they were really neat. I've got some footage. I'm not sure if I was able to send some to Pastor Elisha or not. But just lots of music and just small little sermons here and a quick
right.
5-10 minute sermons from just some of the local pastors and all some of those churches' bands. Again, couldn't understand what they were saying or singing, but they love to dance. They love their music. My goodness, when some good tune starts playing, everyone behind me, people just run up to the front. And they start just dancing. It was good.
That's nice. Aww.
No, it was nice. Just people of all ages, just having fun, just going at it. And it was
full of life.
Yes. And I was dying in my suit, but again, just been bugs flying all over the place. I mean, they had a good time. No one cared. It was good. Even it was hot out, but it was fun. It was good.
That's good. Well, thank you for talking to me and letting me ask you some questions.
Absolutely.
I know Rachel wanted to also ask you, she wanted to interview you a little bit, so
that's fine.
Let's segue over to Rachel and see what she has to say.
Alrighty.
So, what was it like for you the days leading up to the trip?
Honestly, it was a bit rough, physically and financially. I had some minor issues with my car, and honestly, some of them I probably could have held off on, but I didn't want that to distract me while I was over there, or potentially distract me. So it's like, okay, I had to get my brakes done and new tires, and that just kind of hurt me financially. And so, I mean, even though I did those things to not distract me while I was on my trip, knowing that, coming home, I'm like, oh man, my bank account's kind of hurting right now. So, but I guess beside the financial part, then just like physically, I guess like just I couldn't sleep. I mean, it was almost like a not spiritually attacked, but just like I was having a hard time sleeping. I was having a hard time focusing, and just work was a bit difficult in that sense leading up to it. But when I arrived at the airport, that afternoon, getting ready to leave, and it's like, okay, it's been wiped clean. I'm like, okay, this is game time. I'm trying to focus on what I need to do, and so, but yeah, so no, yeah, so basically all of like my worries and all that stuff was just kind of put off to the side, thankfully. But when I was at the airport and whatnot, so that was good there. But I would say really all my worries went away. It's like I'm already strapped in, the thing's going like 300 miles, and just I'm like, this is it. I'm no turning back now. So it's
yeah, it's always kind of intimidating going to a new place, but once you do it, it really all works out.
Yeah, and again, it's like I've traveled before. I've been on a plane before, but it's been years since I've been on a plane. But I'm like, I'm not going within the states. I'm going over the ocean. I'm like, this is a big deal. This is weird. But a lot of things. I mean, trying to sleep on a plane, having dinner, breakfast, and lunch on a. I'm like, all right, this is weird. All right, I can. This is cool.
Yeah. What did you think a missionary was before this trip, and was the actual act of being a missionary different than what you had pictured in your mind?
Well, I mean, I always figured, a missionary, I always thought it would be like some like an underground group of people like trying to smuggle in Bibles with, trying to watch out for all these other, other dangerous groups that were out to get them. Something like you'd see in some kind of action movie or something. Weapons on the back. Okay, let's go travel at night in caravans to do this and do all these cool things. And maybe in a spiritual sense, I suppose it's kind of like that. But I mean, being there, experiencing it firsthand, not that extreme. But I mean, of course, in the back of my head, there is a danger to some degree, but it's a bit different from what I thought. But to experience it firsthand, it's good. It's a good feeling. It's and definitely my perspective has changed. Viewing what a missionary is, and then being a missionary. Yeah, definitely a bit, my thoughts have changed about that, but definitely for the better. And if anything, it's a lot cooler than how I had imagined it. So it's a little bit more laid back, but it's awesome. It's a good feeling.
What was the funniest thing that happened to you?
Well, what was it? Our first building that we stayed in, because we were at some kind of I wouldn't call it. It's not. It kind of reminded me of a resort, but it's more like a compound where we stayed at. But basically, we had our rooms, but our bathrooms were attached to the building, but still outside. So it was like just an afternoon. I was getting ready to just open up the door, but I heard something kind of scurrying around, which kind of surprised me. So I kind of jumped back, and I look in the corner of the bathroom. There's a gecko. I'm like, oh. Okay, I'm like that. I wasn't expecting a gecko. I was expecting some kind of like a thing or a snake or whatever. But yeah, no. So I'm like, whoa! I've never seen that before. And then I got a video of it. I could probably send it to Pastor or whoever, maybe just for the fun of it. But yeah, the thing's scurrying around, and I had a good laugh. I jumped back. Pastor's off to the side. He's laughing, and the thing's trying to scurry around and just ran out. And I'm like, hey, I'm just trying to do my business, and I got like, things crawling in the bathroom and whatnot. So, but I had a good laugh with that. So that was pretty funny. Gecko in the bathroom.
Yeah, that does sound pretty funny. Do you ever plan on doing more mission work in the future?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of ironic and more of a good blessing, really. But when applying for the visas and whatnot, Pastor's. His expires in September, but mine's good for 5 years. So I'm like, that's all the more reason. That is all the more reason to go back and do more work over there. And just I'm looking forward to it. So if I get asked to go back, I'm definitely going to go back. And again, the Lord had given me those 5 years of my visa, so that's all the more reason to put them to use. Lord be willing.
Yeah. What can we continue to pray for the people you met in Burkina Faso and for the nation as a whole?
I would say just that the church buildings will be built safely, and that water will be found, because we're trying to drill for water as well. Not us personally, but yeah, there's a water is trying to be dug, so that overall water will be found, buildings will be built, and then people will be able to be reached out to, throughout whether it's Pastor Powell's his preaching or his teaching, or even just people just getting water. Because again, he was trying to get water at his school and then at his church as well too. So either one those people go to, I mean, assuming that they find water, they'll learn something, they'll gain something from it. Living water. So they're gonna find water, they'll be able to hopefully get something in return. Besides water, like some kind of message. I'm not sure if people will be there to preach as well too, but that'd be nice too. So.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was great to have you with us.
Oh, absolutely. And hey, if I go on more trips, or if anyone else goes on more trips, I'll be glad to hop on this podcast and we can talk some more and whatnot. So I'm thankful to be a part of this, and I appreciate it. Thank you all for having me here.